Do you think they have any connection with the religions of the world?
Maybe some. Yeah, I think that they might be considered gods by some religions, or demons or minor gods by others. I think Christianity considers them demonic, or most Christians, I think, consider them demonic. I don't think that that it's really fair to judge an alien species by earthly standards of good or evil. To them, since they're a hive species, the good is anything that provides a positive thing for the collective, for the whole species, and the bad is anything that threatens the species or does anything detrimental to their collective welfare. They don't have much of much regard for individual rights for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Have they been around this Earth for a long time, do you think, or no?
Yeah, I believe they have. They tell experiencers that they've been around a long time, and that stands to reason. They have so many bases on Earth and know so much about what's going on down here. And they reportedly told the government that they'd been coming here for about 10,000 years, and that to me makes sense. Since the end of the last technological civilization, anyway.
Do they say where they are from?
Yeah, they told me that they were a group of species, of about 7 species in the Gray Alliance that come in general. There might be about 1 or 2 exceptions, but they come in general from planets within 100 light years of here. So. And
like what Claudia was talking about, those 300-footers, I think they're called reptilians.
Yeah, I've never heard of a 300-footer. That would be quite large weight-wise, a lot more than a few hundred pounds, I would think. But yeah, I've heard of some very, very big reptilians. I've never seen any. Some of the Draco reptilians were reported to be like 30 feet tall or something like that. But I don't know. I've never seen one.
And do you think they have relationships with the Greys and the other Nordics, or whatever the other aliens are?
Yeah, the Greys don't get along with the reptilians very well in general. There probably are a few that work with them, but in general they don't really work together. They're kind of like adversaries, and they tell their experiencers not to go certain places where they know that there's a lot more reptilian influence, like national parks, for example. There's been a lot of strange disappearances in national parks. I don't know if you knew that, but it's probably reptilians doing it.
And the Greys are told not to go to the national park areas.
Gray abductees are told not to go there. That it's dangerous to go there. Yeah. Yeah.
And
because they would jump. A lot of the reptilian adversaries would jump at the chance to interrogate and wipe out one of the Greys abductees.
The Greys abductees you're talking about, some human or?
Yeah, humans that they use to put forward their agenda, and they have a lot invested in them and don't want them eaten. Reptilians reportedly eat humans, so at least many of them do.
Yeah.
Now, what has been your experience with? You say you've been taken by the Greys. Can you describe some of your experiences with them?
Well, like my first regression was about the implant experience, where I remembered coming to the house to water the plants, and when my wife was staying over at her mom's house after we had our daughter in 2008. And I went over to the house to water the plants and told her I got tired and told her I didn't want to come back to Oxnard, and our house was in Fillmore at the time, and that I was going to spend the night in Fillmore. So I got settled down and heard some noises and went out in the backyard, and there were these 2 huge raccoons One was like 50 pounds, and one was like 70 pounds, the size of a pretty good sized dog. I didn't even know they got that big. And I watched the animals for a while, and they seemed pretty tame and calm. So I brought them a big bowl of cat food, dry cat food, so they wouldn't eat all our avocados off the avocado tree, and which I think they were after. And I thought that was pretty strange, and so I went into the house and went to bed, and woke up about 8 o'clock the next morning, and had this pain in the right side of my head, and a stinging pain in my left second toe, and I just knew that they'd been there in the middle of the night, and then I had 2 more implants. And so I saw Dr. Leir about this, and it turned out that we saw some stuff on X-ray and had the thing removed about 7 months later. And anyway, I got regressed over that incident, and it turned out that they had a small craft hovering over the backyard, and 2 worker grays came down on a tractor beam and went into the house, and they said, "Come with us," and I followed them out, and we went back up to the craft via the tractor beam, like in the movies, the beam of light that's like a gravity beam, and they were hovering right at rooftop level almost, and I remember quite a bit about the interior of the craft. The interior was lit up with a dim orange light. They like it dark when they're not doing anything that requires a lot of light. And the center of the craft was an airlock containing both human and gray spacesuits. And there were 4 like hallways or passageways and hatchways leading to the exterior ring of the craft. It was about 50 feet in diameter, and there were 2 pilots with controls and view screens at the end of one of the hatchways, and then various ports or stations, including a medical station about 90 degrees from the around the circle from the control station. And they directed me to go to one of those and put the implant in my toe with an implant dispenser-like device that would look like a black plastic handle with a button on it, and it had what looked like a stainless steel tube or some sort of metal tube coming out of it that was about 1/4 inch in diameter, maybe 2 feet long and flexible. There was a needle on the end of that, and that puts the implant in to the desired body part, and they push a button and it dispenses the implant, and then a fiber optic puts ultraviolet light onto the implant to activate it. So I remember quite a bit through regression.
Yeah, those are some experiences.
So you went willingly, or what was your attitude, or what was your?
One of the things I found out was that this had happened hundreds of times. I knew the drill pretty well. I mean, there's no point in resisting. I mean, they can just make you do it if they want to. So you just kind of go with the flow and do what they ask, just like if you were in the U.S. military or a human military. I
don't know if you're familiar with tap lining at all. This term tap lining. It's also
I've
an
heard
implant.
the term, but I'm not sure what it means. But what
I
does
think
it mean?
you may have talked to Kelsey Brown, Bow Conference. But it's an implant, it like an energy, more a subtle kind of implant that they use, more of a, not physical as much as subtle. And
you mean an etheric implant?
More along those lines.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people, psychic type people, talk about those. I think they exist. Yeah.
You might try this singing this sound you. If you find yourself in a position like that again, I was going to ask you about how to offset what they're doing if you want to, but this sound is very powerful in terms of protection.
Yeah. Well, they're capable of exerting extremely powerful control, and this is a species that's thousands of years ahead of us in technology. I'm frankly, I mean, I appreciate the thought and everything, but I'm really not too optimistic about something like that working. They can make you see and hear things that seem absolutely real. If they're within a certain distance of you, about 50 feet, say, and they can implant suggestions and exert quite a bit of telepathic control at far longer ranges. I think if you try to resist, it just pisses them off, and they'll increase the level of control. So,
how do they determine who to pick to do this to?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just curious. How do they determine which individuals they want to pick to have these experiences with?
They call us the chosen. It's definitely a bloodline thing. There's certain bloodlines of humans that they've been following for thousands of years that they're interested in, and we don't know all the details, but they're mainly interested in Native Americans, Germanics, and Celtic peoples, people with those backgrounds. And they also, the bloodlines are interested in, also tend to have a lot of military people or royalty in their families. So they're looking for people with psychic abilities, with high intelligence, physical strength. They seem to be looking for people that could do a lot of technical tasks for them, or do remote viewing for them, or perhaps fight a war for them if the need arose.
I think Sandy's on from Wisconsin. She's had some experience with the new you and seeing aliens and having protection. Are you there,
Can
Sandy?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Who's
talking?
I just wanted to ask one more. One more. I think I'll wait. I'll wait on the question. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
You sure? Okay. This is Sandy from Wisconsin. And I've had a lot of experiences with the aliens, not only the reptilians from Orion, but the Sirians.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a portal that's very close to my house. And I frequently have the reptilians coming through, or I've even had animals pop through the portals. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what Val talked about, the tap lines and the new UUU sound. I had somebody come in my dream state who is a purported spiritual leader, and his wife was standing up in the air behind him, and he had a big red tube with like brass suckers, if you can imagine that, on it. And he went and he plunked it on my upper arm, and I got right in his face, and I said, "Get that off of me. Right now, get it off." And it was like he was hypnotized, puppet on a string, and the woman behind, who was standing up a little bit in the air behind him, finally signaled him, back where she was, and they took off. And I grabbed hold of that red tube with my hand, and I sang the new you. And all of a sudden the tap line came off. And then I, threw it into the universe or wherever it went. But
these are reptilians?
Well, no, this was a spiritual leader who heads up actually Ekankar on this planet from the Minnesota area, and his wife was standing up behind him, and they came to me in a dream and tried to tap line me.
In a dream, okay. So this was not a physical experience then, eh?
No, well, it was in the dream state, but I have had physical experiences with the Orions, like I said, and the Sirians, or the reptilians and the Sirians, that have come through the portal. And
what are the Sirians like?
they're very. Everything is telepathic with them, and Claudia probably can explain it better than I can. But they can't speak, and neither can the Orions. They don't have a voice.
The Greys can't either.
Huh?
Yeah. The Greys can't speak either. Only the hybrids can speak. The Greys are totally telepathic too. Yeah,
and both of those species are too. And the Sirians are big, not quite as big as the Orions, but they're sort of gorilla or ape-like, very long, fine hair, baby fine hair. Very kind. They're very much in harmony with their own environment from Sirius.
Right.
Yeah, they're very very interesting.
What color is the hair?
Kind of a brownish, and then there's some lighter. I've seen some with some long strands of lighter, kind of goldish brown coming down from the top of their head coming down. That piece is quite long, is what I've seen. And Claudia, do you want to chime in any more about them?
Yes,
I
a little bit. Question.
Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you. My name is Nakaya. Thank you for letting me introduce myself into your conversation. I was wondering, the speaker, did you say that they asked you permission before? At some point, do they ask permission to take you into this particular set of experiences? At some point, do they ask?
No, I don't remember ever being asked permission. I feel like I've been drafted into an alien military, and I'm pretty used to it now, but it was kind of traumatic when I was a kid, when they do a lot of medical stuff on you when you're a kid. And some people say that you agreed to this in another life in soul form or something like that, but that just sounds like sounds like BS to me. But I don't remember ever being asked permission. No.
Okay, and so basically they don't really deal with you on an individual level. You're simply taken into this and tested, and et cetera, et cetera. And you've never had any experiences where they've actually sat down with you as an individual or a being, or you don't know of any experiences like that?
Yeah, as an adult, I sometimes do. Yeah, I remember an experience one time where it was a missing time experience where I was driving down Highway 40, going westbound, right near, not too far from Ludlow, California, in the desert, if you know where that is. And it's on the path between Barstow and Needles. Very remote, very out in the middle of nowhere in the summertime. And I looked at the clock, and it was 10 o'clock, and it was then I looked at it what seemed like 30 seconds later, and it was 1 a.m. And we'd only gone maybe a mile or so. And I'm just going, what the heck's going on here? And I stopped at the next town, and it was before Ludlow, actually. I stopped in Ludlow to check the time to make sure that my clocks hadn't screwed up or something. And sure enough, it was 3 hours later, and years later I got regressed over that. And a few months after that incident, I remembered an alien like beaming to the ground on the passenger side of the vehicle after I stopped the car. Then when I got regressed, I remembered that my wife at the time had freaked out and said, "Oh, hit the gas," when she saw the UFO coming. And I hit the gas, and then they told me telepathically to stop the car, and I pulled over and stopped the car, and she was like turned off in the seat next to me, and the UFO was hovering over us, and as I was pulled over to the side of the road, this alien that I recognized as my handler, everybody has a handler, beamed to the pavement at the side of the passenger side of the car and goes telepathically, "You know, Colbern, somebody at your level ought to know better than to try to run from us." And I go, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, sir. It took a while for my memory to kick in," and that seemed to satisfy him. And he said, "Well, go with them," pointing to two worker grays coming out of the darkness, "and go collect some samples." And then a large UFO landed about 100 yards away, and we glided over to it. When you're with them, you often just glide along the ground. You don't really walk, and it's like you're standing on Mercury or something. And they had hundreds of people there that they just abducted from the LA area, and they were doing medical stuff on them. It was quite disturbing when I first remembered it.